In the heart of Nigeria's Niger Delta, Akwa Ibom State now still within the rich tapestry of its culture. We embark on a journey through time to uncover the stories of courage and resistance that shocked the foundation of colonial rule. It was in the early 20th century when colonial powers held sway over the destinies of nations. The British Empire, in its pursuit of economic dominance, imposed its will upon the people of Ikot Abasi, levying unjust taxes of goods vital to their survival. Among those affected were the women of Ikot Abasi, Etimekpo, Bende, Owerri and Calabar provinces. Those women who bore the brunt of these oppressive policies forced to exorbitant taxes on goods such as palm oil, kernel and other farm products. Those women fought themselves struggling to make ends meet while their voices were stifled by colonial rules. Ikot Abasi women were the backbone of their community, yet they were marginalized and exploited by the colonial administration. But the women refused to accept their fate silently. In the face of tyranny, the women rose as one, a force to be reckoned with, a spark of resistance ignited, led by a fearless woman called Madame Adiara Eden. She was the leader of Ikot Abasi women protest, a paternal grandmother of Senator Odo Udoma, a former minister, and a biological mother of Justice Egbe Kodoma, a former Chief Justice of Uganda, 1963 to 1969, and a Justice of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. Justice Udo Udoma was just 12 years old during the time of the women protest.
Feared that this might lead to increment of taxation and being burden on them. So the women now started, after taking part in this head count, they feared this taxation will increase. That the women decided they should take their destiny in their hands. Follow me. This is the normal day life. They deals on hard food exploitation. Mostly, palm fruit was one of the richest commodities then, back in the days. But most people did not understand. When the British came, they saw that the women were prosperous, especially most families were doing very well in palm fruit production. They now took advantage of that, increasing taxation every day. That keep on going up, keep on increasing. So when the women saw that they started their head counts, they feared this would lead to more taxation. Now they now had to convene a meeting where they all gathered. Now look at the British. This is where the British army met with the women of the Ikot Abasi. They started fighting. So many lives were lost in the process. This picture depicts when the war actually broke out. This is the beginning of the war, when it started. Most women died. But some of them, who were courageous enough, stood still till the tears of time. Let me give it to you. To other pictures. And this is a picture of Frederick Blood looking at our first colonial master. Yeah. Now, when the war broke out in full flesh, so many people, so many women with their bare hands and many weapons, they were able to overpower the first British barricade. Some died, but they were able, the warrior women, they were able to push the colonial master, the British colonial master, back with the help of some courageous women like the warrior women. This symbol here, this was meant to be a peaceful protest of women of the old eastern region. There's different tone where the insensitive colonial troops decided to use violence to dispense them, compared with the knocking down of two of the protesters by Dr. Hunter, who was fleeing from the area in panic. Suddenly the peaceful protest became violent. and the gallant women fought and died like the warriors they were.
Madam Adiareden was supported by the other brave women in the
Wow.
community, united by a common cause, fueled by unwavering commitment to justice. Before the women revolted in December 1929, the people of former Eastern region, like others, during the colonial dispensation, lined and died serving the sole interest of the colonial mission, the soul of the British. This was the reason traditional rulers and institutions were set aside. Land was put into use without the people's consent. Cash crops were introduced to promote European economy. The courts, police force and army were set to enforce harsh laws and colonial policies that benefit only Britain.
This is where the protest was still peaceful. This image of the people, when the protest was still peaceful, they used their pamphlet to demonstrate their displeasure. But since the British were adamant, they were determined to bring these women down. They did everything within their power to make sure that they eliminate them because they didn't want any uprising. But they turned around.
This also was why taxes was introduced to further take from the people the little they got for all their labor to save Europeans home and colonial administrations. This especially maladministration in human treatment of natives were what the women set out to stop by embarking on protests across former Calabar and Owerri provinces in what has come to be known as Women's War of 1929. In the local dialect, it is called Ekoniban. The women knew that change wouldn't come unless they fought for it. So Madam Adiadem stood tall, inspiring others to join her in the struggle. In November 6, 1929, the streets of Ikot Abasi echoed with the steps of brave women, their voices raised in defiance with courage and determination. They marched fearlessly to the local court's house, demanding an end to the unjust taxation and oppressive policies and discrimination practices that are imposed by the colonial administrations that kept them shackled. Through the act of defiance and solidarity, they challenged the status quo and shattered the chains of oppression that bound them. The colonial authorities were taken aback by the scale and determination of the protests. Accustomed to wielding unchecked power, they confronted with a force they underestimated. The first protest started on the 23rd November 1929 in Oloko, Owerri province, burned there and quickly spread like a wildfire to Calabar province, which Olopopo was under Calabar province. It was in Ewang, Opopo, now called Ikot Abasi, that it became heated than other provinces. On the 16th December 1929, Adiaredem and other women of Ikot Abasi were invited to meet with the district officer by name A.R. Whiteman. Adiagang, as the women leader, led some selected women to meet with the district officer and presented him with a list of 7 demands. One out of the 7 demands was for the government not to tax the women. It was approved and signed, but just as the deal was signed and distributed, a crowd of women arrived from the village to the local courts, believing that something wasn't right at the courthouse. The arrival of the women to the district officer's office turned back the hands of clock As the women surged towards the court, it broke through the wooden fence. Though they were unarmed, with just palm fronds in their hands. The district officer, a white man, got angry and offended and immediately ordered the commanding officer, Captain Hill, to open the fire on the unarmed women. That was when Adiarede wrestled and seized a gun from one of the policemen and broke it into two pieces. Captain Hill, who was the commanding officer, ordered his troop to fire their rifles straight to the unarmed women, while he brought out his pistol and shot Madame Adams straight into the heart. She died on the spot, while other women were also killed by the soldiers without hesitation. More women were killed at Stampede, and some were even chased to the waterfront and gunned down. It was a black day to the entire community. They were shocked as in what could have prompted such inhuman treatment. A barbaric act against unarmed and helpless women who were simply exercising the right of protest against government policies. The colonial administration immediately deployed more troops to Ikot Abasi and immediately announced the setting up of a commission, which was headed by Donald Kingdom. The British administration justified the act as a mob action on the district officer. Hundreds of women lost their lives on that fateful day.
Now it's now the Ministry of Land and Town Planning. Still very useful. So we are heading towards the completion.
This is the graveside of the mock graveside.
This baby signifies the mock gravesite in memory of the 1959 Women's War. May their souls rest in peace. It's a mock gravesite in for all the women that died. Those we saw and those we didn't even see. But this was the actual spot he died. So the
Were
mock
they all buried here?
no, they were not buried here, but this was the spot he died. Those celebrations, so every year they will come and celebrate the government. 16 December. Just come and celebrate. Yeah. Then this river is called Imo River.
Imo River.
Yes. The river is called Imo River. Imo River is the river where the British are going from.
These incidents paved way for introduction of administrative and constitutional reforms that led by nationalist movements subscribe, like, and share. I would love to read from all of you. Bye bye for now and see you in our next episode.
There'll be no more pain. There'll be no more shame. There'll be no more loss. In Jesus' name. There'll be no more sorrow. There'll be no more bloodshed. He said it is finished. We believe. He said it is finished.